What is the best age for a football player? In this video we will extend our football player rating model in a way that will allow us to find the peak age of an average player. Coming up! Hello, my name is Lars Magnus and this is Football Player Ratings, where you can find videos about how to use historical data and mathematical models to rank individual football players. In this video we will make some statements about the peak age of an average football player. Before we do that, let us outline the mathematical model that we will use in the process. The starting point is known as adjusted plus-minus ratings. These are found by using multiple linear regression and the method of ordinary least squares. The rating model says that if we consider a part of a match where no substitutions or dismissals take place, then the observed goal difference in that part of the match, scaled to represent the goal difference per 90 minutes, should be approximately equal to the sum of the ratings for the home team players minus the sum of the ratings for the away team players. The adjusted plus-minus model too easily leads to overfitting when applied to football. So instead of using the method of ordinary least squares, it is much better to use ridge regression. We have also discovered that it is useful to weigh the different parts of a match differently, taking into account the duration of a segment and the current score when the segment starts. Finally, we have seen that the model can be improved by taking into account the home field advantage and the occurrence of players being sent off. However, there is one problem with the best model developed. When we use it, we add many seasons of data to the model. That is, when we tune the parameters of the model, we use 8 seasons of data. But we also have a much larger dataset containing even more seasons of data. However, the model implies that the rating of a player is constant over time. That is, a player's rating is the same for the oldest match in the dataset and for the newest match in the dataset. While it may make sense to try to measure the overall performance of a player over time, it may not make as much sense to assume that this performance is constant. Instead, I would guess that football players have a certain age when they play at their peak, that when they are younger they are still developing their skills, and when they are older their performance declines due to age-related decrease in physical capabilities. Wouldn't it be nice if our models would allow for this behavior? It seems this would help us to create better estimates of the strength of a player. To allow for this, we need to modify our model a bit. Before, the rating of a player was simply expressed as a single variable. Now, we need to let the rating of a player vary depending on the age of the player at the time that the match is played. In principle, we can write the rating of a player as a sum of two components, one being the constant term as before, the other being a function of the player's age at the time of the match. Now, when it comes to how to represent the age effect, we will test 3 different approaches, loosely based on what has been used previously in the literature. Basically, we will test whether the performance of football players over time can be represented by either a quadratic function, a cubic function, or a piecewise linear function. Using the quadratic age profile function, the peak age of the average football player is estimated to 27.2 years. With the cubic function, the peak age is shifted only slightly to 27.7 years. While the quadratic and cubic function look very similar, the piecewise linear age profile has a somewhat different appearance. First of all, it's noisier, with some ups and downs that do not look quite right. However, these kinks are relatively small in size and do not deviate very much from the quadratic and cubic curves. Furthermore, the piecewise linear curve clearly is steeper for younger and older players. So which is more important, to have a cleaner curve with less noise, or to be able to identify the more aggressive increase and decrease by younger and older players respectively? For the answer, we return to our framework for evaluating our player ratings. Our starting point is the weighted regularized adjusted plus-minus model, including home advantage and red card adjustments. Looking first at the effect of including a quadratic age curve, the results are encouraging. The predictive power of the ratings gets a nice boost, and the repeatability makes a large jump towards its theoretical limit. The cubic age curve, as we might have guessed, is approximately equal in performance to the quadratic curve. The piecewise linear curve, however, drops a little bit in terms of repeatability, while obtaining a slightly better predictive power. Given that we have always favored better predictions, this will be the method that we will keep. Let us now have a look at the top 10 players in the dataset that we use for tuning our methods. This dataset consists of 8 seasons worth of data from 2009 to 2017, including domestic matches from the top 2 divisions in the 5 biggest leagues in Europe, as well as other matches for both club teams and national teams. With our previous best rating, the top rated players were all aged between 28 and 36, all older than the identified peak age. In the new top 10, there are surprisingly few changes, with the top 6 remaining unchanged. 2 players drop out of the top 10, aged 33 and 34, being replaced by 2 players aged 27 and 29. Somewhat interesting, we can now present not just the current rating of the players, as in the rightmost column, but also their estimated peak rating. That is, the second rightmost column showed the rating that the model currently assigns to a player at the point in time that the player is peaking. Now, how about a player such as Cristiano Ronaldo? Is he getting too old? Well, the rating model would suggest that he, at the age of 32, has his best performances in the past. However, there are of course individual differences, and it could be argued both ways as to whether one particular individual player is able to extend his career beyond what is expected from the average player. In the next videos on this channel, we will play around with our newest rating model, showing some results when it's applied to a larger dataset. If you're interested in seeing those, please consider subscribing to the channel.